Guys, back with FlipTracking.com, and we're here to talk a little bit about delineating flip tracking from MLS, and maybe more importantly, just talking a little bit about the functionality of what flip tracking can and can't do. As a flipper, we're always asking questions about how do we drive our return, how do we mitigate our risk, how do we push ROI, the return on investment. And going into that decision, there's a lot of things, there's a lot of steps. And one of the things that I'm finding is that with more and more technology, more and more competition, you just got to stay ahead of the curve. You got to make sure that you have the best and most accurate information. And one of the things we've found is when you study comps, there's nothing wrong with studying comps. But what about studying flipping comps? Who else is wholesaling? Who else is buy fixing and flipping? And what does that look like? What do they buy it for? How long do they hold it? And what do they sell it for? So the last clip that we just talked about was at the 637 Bates Street in 85203. Why that's important is as follows. Just recently we got a lead. My company, Fair Property Buyers, got a lead, 1034 North Hunt Drive, Mesa, Arizona. And we have since put it in escrow, and now we're doing our due diligence. So one of the questions I ask, of many questions that us flippers ask, is, okay, well, what's going on in 85203? What I'd like to know is who else is flipping, what are they making, how long is it taking, who are the players, and what kind of model exists there. Now, again, this is important. If you live in the Scottsdale, Mesa, Phoenix area like I do, this might not be the most difficult question to ask or answer. But what if you live in Scottsdale like I do and you get a lead to some other city like Miami, Florida, or Corpus Christi, Texas, or Colorado Springs, right? I don't know anything about those markets. I presume you don't either. But the ability to quickly and efficiently dig into those markets and in just a few clicks and seconds figuring out who's doing what, I think that would have some value. So let's actually do that. What we've done is we've gone over to flip tracking, and it's this zip code 85203. We went to flip tracking, and I typed in on the closed flips 85203. We're taking a look at this year-to-date calendar. I just want to know what's going on this year. It's been about 6 or 7 months. Right here, 01/01/2006, you do that by basically clicking this checkbox, and then a drop-down menu pops down, and there you go. Boom, January 1st, 2016. Same thing here through present. And what we do is we hit search. Now, when you do that, you come up with these 7 results. And like I said, the last clip that we just did, we really dug into this flip right here. The reason why that was important is, remember, if you look on MLS and you search for the 637 East Bates Street, Mesa, Arizona, 85203 transactions for this year, you find 0. There are no transactions for that property this year. How could that be? Flip tracking is telling you there's a close of escrow 1 and a close of escrow number 2, and it looks as if flip tracking is trying to tell me that somebody generated about $17,249 in approximately 48 days. It's flip cycle. But MLS clearly does not tell you that story. So it's important to recognize. But even more so than that is I want to know what's going on with this whole area. So take a look at this. There's another flip right here. We'll just go through these real quick. 2nd Street, somebody bought it for 81. Somebody sold it for 90. And somebody did a $9,000 gross spread in about 0 days. When I see $9,000 in 0 days, that tells me, A, it's a wholesaler, B, a simultaneous or double close, and C, I'm going to guess, and we'll verify this, I bet you one or more of those records was not on MLS. It just can't be on a simultaneous close. It's not that it can't be. It just probably isn't, but we shall see. Glen Cove Street, somebody got this for $235, sold it for $260, so they generated $25,000 of gross spread in 95 days. Kind of sounds like a wholesaler, not sure. Fraser Drive, the west part of that street, somebody bought it for $183.5. Somebody sold it for $193. So somebody generated $9,500 in 39 days. Again, that sounds like a wholesaler to me. It just kind of looks like a wholesale fee and an amount of days that maybe a wholesaler probably did. Here's another one in Canto Street in 85203. Look at there, 180. And 0 days later, somebody sold it for 188. So somebody generated an $8,000 gross spread in 0 days. That's obviously a wholesaler. How could it not be? And then Evergreen. Here's a condo, I bet, or apartment, because it says unit 126. Somebody bought this for 63, and then 45 days later sold it for 65. That's important because if you buy an asset for 63 and 45 days later sell it for 65, my supposition is that investor lost money. A $2,000 profit margin in 45 days with all the fees and costs and insurance and HOA and utilities and cleaning and management and what have you, the guy or gal probably lost a couple of bucks on that one. And then lastly, remember there was 7 flips inside 85203 this year, in 2016, year to date I should say. And it looks like somebody got this for $58,675, and then the second close of escrow was $33,000 even. A loss. Look at this. A profit margin of minus $25,675 in 20 days. I'm not exactly sure what's going on there. Could somebody have really made that big of a mistake and lost money? I guess so. What that looks like to me is a trustee sale. And I bet you one or more of those data points are also not on MLS. So I bet you a bank had to take it back at $58,000 because that was the loan amount that they lent to the previous buyer borrower. Then they stuck it on MLS and found a quick cash buyer in 20 days for 33 grand. So the bank definitely took it in the shorts on that one. So this is what FlipTracking shows you. It's pretty interesting. Let's take a look at the map view. Now keep in mind, this right here, this address, I want you to see this address. I'm just going to show it to you on a map real quick. The reason why this is important, I want you to look at this mapped property. You see this? You see Brown and what is that, Barkley? And then you see right here Hunt and Fairfield Frost Fountain. Okay, let's go find that on our map. So here's the FlipTracking map view. I toggled from list view to map view. Let's go to 85203 where these little blue dots are, showing us that there's properties. And let's take a look. Yeah, there we go. I'm just kind of drilling in. So look at this. If you notice, here's Brown, here's Stapley, here's Barkley, right? And the same 3 streets that we just saw. Fairfield, Frost, and Fountain. You come back over here to our map. Fairfield, Frost, and Fountain Street. So pretty much right at this T, one house down, is our subject property, and there it is, 1034 North Hunt Drive. That's our subject property that we have in escrow right now. So we'll go to FlipTracking. Let's find that. There you go. Frost, it's probably right there. If you see where my little hand is, no, I'm sorry. I think it's this property right here. So this property, if you notice, is our subject property, and if I were to just, as a crow flies, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rooftops to the southwest is this property. Now, if you notice, it looks here as if this is the one on Encanto. Somebody bought this for $180,000 on February 2nd, day before my birthday, and somebody sold it for $188,000, also day before my birthday, February 2nd. So these people generated an $8,000 gross spread in 0 days, which our ROI calculator, although it's not perfect, we're still tweaking it, but it's trying to tell you that this person made 4.44%. That's not exactly right, but we're still working on that. So this is interesting, right? Here's the APN number, the assessor parcel number. You can actually go look this up. You can go look up tax records, but it quickly shows you, well, hey, about so many rooftops to the southwest, there's a flip. Let's take a look at this guy. This one's still pretty close. This is that condo. So see, this would not be a fantastic comp. Think about it. This is a condo. Some guy bought this. Guy or gal bought it for 63. They sold it 45 days later for 65, and made a positive gross spread of about $2,000. But it's still interesting to know. Remember, our subject property I think is right here. So let's go here. I think there was another flip pretty close right there. Let's see what this is all about. So this guy. 1751 East Glen Clove Street, Mesa 85203. This guy, let's see, $235,000 is the purchase price, and $260,000 is the sales price. If you notice, this is a profit margin of 95 days, or I should say gross profit of about 95 days. Why this is interesting is because here's the big take home. If you study MLS, I looked up each of these properties right here on list view. If you look up each of these properties and pull each of them up on MLS, I pulled up all of the sales records for this year of 2015. Remember, apples to apples. 2016. Well, if you do that, look at Bates. Somebody bought it for 140 and sold it for 157. There is no Bates on here. So it just doesn't exist. So right here, we capture that by as follows. If we compare MLS to FlipTracking, this Bates Street, it says the A to B leg, which is the acquisition of the purchase leg, how we buy. The A to B side doesn't exist on MLS. The B to C side doesn't exist on MLS. But the A to B side does exist at $1,241 on FlipTracking. And the B to C leg, or the divestment leg, the selling leg, the flipping leg, the profit leg, the BC side, shows $157,500 is what they sold it for. So just clicking back right here, remember, somebody generated about 17 grand in 48 days. Well, MLS doesn't have that. But if you look at FlipTracking, it does. So what MLS was showing has happened is basically nothing. I just highlighted right here, what MLS is saying is no flip occurred if you're just going off of the MLS data. But clearly this is, I can't say clearly, but this is likely a wholesale flip. Somebody's generating 17K in 48 days, it's probably a wholesaler. So let's go to the next one. Let's go to 2nd Street in Mesa. So the only one I could find is this one right here. This is the only data point for 650 East 2nd Street in Mesa 85203 for this year of 2016. And it looks like somebody closed at $81,000, but that's it. If you notice, on FlipTracking, it says somebody did close for $81,000. There it is. But where's this record? Well, remember when I had said this is most likely a wholesaler and probably not an MLS? Well, in 0 days, you usually don't have a D2C leg or a second closed transaction on MLS. It's just not going to happen. This is a wholesaler with a cash buyer's list. And I happen to know this wholesaler. His name is John, and he's very proficient in the space. He definitely knows what he's doing, and clearly he generated $9,000 in 0 days. So if we go to this 650 East 2nd Street property, notice the A to B leg is on MLS. You can see where somebody closed for $81,000, but the BC side, the monetization side, there's nothing there. It doesn't exist on MLS. But if you go to FlipTracking, it shows that you made purchased for $81,000, and it shows it was sold for $90,000. So clearly you can infer somebody made $9,000. I call this a +1. In other words, FlipTracking has 2 pieces of data. MLS has 1 piece of data, so FlipTracking has an edge of about 1 piece of information. That's really the second half to consummate a full transaction. Let's go to Glen Cove. If you look at Glen Cove, Street, acquired, the A to B leg was 235. The sales side was 260. So somebody generated $25,000 in 95 days. Well, if we go over to MLS, Glen Cove, there's Glen Cove right there, but that's it. There isn't a second Glen Cove. Again, we have half the story. We have 50% of what's going on is on MLS. So let's take a look at this. On Glen Cove, here it is. It looks like the A to B leg is missing on MLS. And why is that? I think I looked this up. In case MLS doesn't show, I'm not really sure, but it doesn't have the A to B leg. So this tells me that it was, for whatever reason, off market or something like that. But the B to C leg, the sales side, was 260. So notice MLS shows you only half the picture, but here we are with FlipTracking, shows you both pieces of data. The buy side 235, the sell side 260. Obviously there's more data as well. If you look over here, it says FlipTracking clearly shows the A to B leg and B to C leg. When I dug deeper into this property, and I wrote myself a little note, you find that it was a reverted trustee sale of Fannie Mae at 235. So reversions or trustee sales are not on MLS, as we all know, not when the bank takes it back. So the bank took this thing back at 235 and sold it 95 days later on MLS for 260. That information is captured on FlipTracking. Half the story is captured on MLS. Let's take a look at Frazier. Let's see what Frazier says. Here's Frazier. Somebody picked it up for 183, got rid of it for 193, made $9,500 in 39 days. Let's see what MLS says. Looking for Frazier, and Frazier's not here. So again, I really want you to do this. Go to MLS, plug in this address, search for 2016 closed transactions, and clearly you don't find anything. So when we go to Frazier, look at here. The A to B leg is not there on MLS. The B to C leg is not there on MLS. Yet on FlipTracking, There's the 183, obviously, and the 193. So there's two pieces of data. In other words, a complete picture, a complete flip picture as to what's going on. It says right here, if you were to study MLS, neither of these sales were on MLS. So clearly you would miss that piece of data. You wouldn't understand that somebody is doing that behavior, that investment behavior. When you look at FlipTracking, it says clearly someone generated $9,300 in about 31 days. I actually dug a little bit deeper, and it says it looks like it's a wholesaler. Desert Dwellings LLC was involved, and they made $9,500. So here's a flip that happened right under the MLS's nose, so to speak, if that makes sense. Let's go over to Encanto. Here's Encanto. I think this one was important because on Encanto, the 180 to 188, if you remember, let's go to the map view. This was key because when we looked at our property, or our subject property where Hunt is, let me just drill down a little bit. Remember, our subject property that I have in escrow right now that I'm doing due diligence on, trying to figure out if I'm going to buy this, fix it, and flip it, or wholesale it, etc. My subject property is right here. So again, half a dozen rooftops as the crow flies here is Encanto. And so now I can actually dig down and figure out, wow, this guy bought it for 180, sold it for 188, generated $8,000 in 0 days. I wonder who that guy is, that guy or gal is. So when we go over here to Encanto, actually, I'm sorry, we'll go to MLS. We see Encanto, there it is, but it's only one data point. Again, go search it on MLS 2016. You don't see the second data point. Right here, you will see Encanto was purchased for the A to B leg for 180. The BC side doesn't exist. MLS didn't capture it. Clearly, FlipTracking captured both. We've got a little bit more data than they do. And right here, I dug a little bit deeper, and it looks like the cash buyer that picked this up off MLS, not on MLS. The wholesaler that made the $8,000 is A2Z Property Management LLC. Again, FlipTracking found it. MLS tells you half the story. Of 7 flips, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 flips, MLS got 1 right. 1 out of 7. This, to me, is substantial. To think that we go to MLS for our data, or sometimes rely on MLS as our only data set, is just something that I think we need to take a second look at. Now, I use the MLS. It's critically important to my business. I agree. But look how much information is just missing from MLS. If you look, this deal right here on Evergreen, let's go find it. The MLS has got it where they picked it up at 63. They then sold it at 65. So there's both the records. And of course, let's see, FlipTracking has both of the records. Let me go to list view. Both of the records right there, 63, 65. If you guys remember, this guy made $2,000 in 45 days. He probably lost his shirt a little bit. Okay, and the last deal on Linwood. The last deal in Linwood right here, 525 East Linwood Street, 5203. Somebody picked it up for $58K approximately and got rid of it 20 days later for $33. So it looks like somebody lost 25 grand in 20 days. I think this was a bank repossession deal as well. So if you notice, MLS has just the A to B leg, does not have the B to C leg. A half the flip story again. FlipTracking obviously has it all. And it says right here, this flip was actually a negative value, as you know. They lost about $25,000. In this case, American Eagle Mortgage took back the property at $58,675 and then put it on MLS and probably just took the very first cash buyer they could find at 33. So in conclusion, I just want you to look at this color-coded chart right here. If you look, FlipTracking has all the data, both sides of every flip in all of 85203 for the entire 7 or 8 months of 2016. But if you look at how many pieces of data the MLS side has, let's just count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the amount of data that should be there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So 6 out of 14 is the disparity or the difference in what we find when we're comparing MLS to FlipTracking. The other thing is finding flips on MLS is not the easiest thing to do in the first place. FlipTracking, you can do it in like 30 days. That sums it up. It's just a quick review. It's just one tool. It's just one thing to help give you the advantage. It is certainly not the end-all, be-all, but hopefully with this review of FlipTracking, you can certainly see where it may play a role. in your business and help you do your job better and mitigate risk and drive ROI. Thank you very much.